All right. You're allowed to sell products subtly. You can't be too blatant about it in most cases. And you can definitely position for clients and jobs. Okay. Where do you find these adult education providers? Well, I've got a list of all the big ones on my website. So you can go there, go under links, and you'll see them. There's all kinds of links, and this is just one category. Or you can go to Google Maps and put adult education in quotations in your city name, and it'll show you a bunch of them that'll come right up. Okay, and it'll show, I mean, you can go to any municipality's website and go to the Parks and Rec department and see if you can find it, but they don't all have it. Most do, but they don't all. But doing it this way is pretty quick. I mean, you can. I just did this yesterday, so boom. You know, I found 4 or 5, and you can call them and say, who do I talk to about submitting a proposal? Who's your program director? And it goes quick. You get an email address, send your PDF, I'm interested in doing a class. It doesn't have to be that hard. Here's what the catalogs look like. Now this is fascinating. I started out doing mortgages. Like, mortgages are such a disaster today. But they weren't once upon a time, and I was in that. But so I've done programs on mortgages for quite a number of years. In fact, the podcast that's been downloaded 40,000 times is about mortgages, and the thing exploded and got downloaded everywhere. It was amazing. So I started doing these programs, and you know, this is Concord, the city of Concord, and they put together these little magazines, and they send them out to 30,000 households that are in Concord, and I don't pay a penny for that. I mean, talk about free marketing. Anyone who's in business for themselves, someone's going to send out 30,000 mailers on your behalf, right? And all you have to do is submit a catchy proposal to try and get people to come to a course. That's great marketing. Okay, so you can do some of this stuff. All right, trade shows and conferences. Again, send in a proposal. I sent in a proposal to this conference, actually to the gentleman who just walked in, Dennis Dawson, who coordinated the educational sessions for today's conference. You send in a proposal, and again, I did the same basic format that I use for everything else to give a synopsis of what I would like to talk about. Then the conversation begins, the dialogue begins, and they say, okay, we're interested, tell us more, and that's where it all starts. Okay, you're not going to get paid, in some cases ever, depending on, like for example, Toastmasters doesn't, they might pay at Tate, I'm not sure, but they don't pay any of the workshop instructors, and that's fine. Okay. But there's other conferences that will pay some and not pay others, and it depends on your notoriety in the field. And I've got an example about that in just a second. Selling products depends on the event, and again, I mean, I think selling in general should be done subtly. No one wants to be sold on something. And the interesting thing, by the way, about sales is that the people who want more information already know they do. They don't need me to bait them. So it's really just a question of leaving the door open, and the people who want to walk through it usually do. And it's excellent credibility. And again, I mean, this is an example of a conference, certainly, but there are other conferences, like one I did, and this was a lot of fun. This is a conference, the Internet Marketing Conference, and every year they hold it in a different city around the world. And I'm sorry?
Is that Sweden?
Yeah.
Stockholm?
Yeah, Stockholm, Sweden. I mean, I sent this in as a lark. In fact, I went to Google and I put in Internet Marketing Conference to see if I could find any conferences about Internet marketing. Turns out there is a conference called Internet Marketing, because it came up right away, right? And I was like, okay, well, I'll check it out, you know. And it said on the you know, the sidebar, speakers, and so I clicked on it and submit proposal, so I did. This was in September of last year, 2007. And and by the way, this was a Thursday evening. I literally had a beer on my desk. It was the end of my day, and I was just surfing, right? I was just playing. And on Monday, I got a reply saying, we're interested in your topic. And the conversation began, and 2 months later, I went to Stockholm, Sweden. And all the women over there are like this tall. I mean, it was really a good time. I mean, just to be there, it was a fascinating. And then, so anyway, did they pay me? No. I got into the conference for free, obviously, but I had points so I could pay my own airfare. So really, I just paid my hotel, and that was what it cost me. But then this year, I submitted another proposal, and they didn't pay me, but they paid my airfare. Well, that's a step in the right direction. And next March, it looks like I'm going to go to Helsinki, and they might, not yet. Cell phones, shame. they might pay my hotel. So there is a process here, okay? And I am a relative novice I mean, I'm doing this stuff. Everything I'm talking about are things that I am doing, but at the same time, it's still fairly new to me. But there are people within our ranks who are doing this for a living. And one of them is going to be speaking this afternoon. And she doesn't know that I built this slide, but I've got a ton of respect for her because she is the person who originally inspired me to look at conferences. Because she does this, I mean, she speaks all over the world. And she's speaking right after lunch. She's fantastic. I can't wait to hear her speak. So there are people, and she does this for a living. Okay. So it's just another good example. Okay. Marketing programs directly. This used to be the most expensive option, and it still is in the large scale. Right? You want to, Anthony Robbins is a motivational speaker. Some of you may recognize that name. Does these huge events, and he does massive marketing. I mean, enormous amounts of money are spent trying to pull these things off. But there's some options that have come up recently, again as a result of the internet. We're going to talk about those, which can put you in front of some people pretty quickly when it's your event, a solo event, just you. Okay. But marketing is going to cost you, if you're going to do any sort of a big event, marketing is going to cost you some money, especially if you want people to pay to be there. Right? It's a lot easier to offer something for free or very, very cheap and then sell something. Right? I mean, that's the reality. Okay? And there's even some techniques as far as chunking that data, which can make it easily digestible, that we can't get into that today. I do a whole workshop on that, so the people who are interested, you can let me know about that. Product sales can add significantly to your revenue, so that's where you can offset the marketing. And in fact, I'll give you an example, because this is amazing. I mean, if you really think about this. Real Estate Wealth Expo with Donald Trump. Okay, this was in San Francisco. They hold it at 6 cities around the United States. They didn't do it this year, but they had been doing it once a year for quite a while. And they get 60,000 people to go there. It's at Moscone. It's a huge event.
Which one is it?
The Real Estate Wealth Expo with Donald Trump. Actually, it's free for some, but they have different pay grades. But the fact is, they're putting you in front of bodies, and that's the value. So as a speaker, they do pay some speakers, like Donald Trump gets paid a bundle because he's the headliner. But most of the sessions are not held by people. They don't get paid to speak. They don't even speak for free. They pay $50,000 for the opportunity to speak in front of 60,000 people. That's true. I know one of the ladies who recruits those speakers. $50,000. So what do these guys do, right? You can imagine. They get up there. It's called platform selling, and they're all, heroes in their neighborhood. They all have happy marriages, right? And their kids are all thrive, right? It's all choreographed, right? But they all have some person in their family who's struggling, and that's their emotional hook. And they sit there and they try and sell a $2,000 program, and the first 25 that they sell pays for the fact that they got there in the first place, and then they get to keep all the rest of it.